Hello in England. What's that sound I hear? Is it the chimes of Big Ben? Or is it the shofar, the trumpet? Is it the sound of an alarm? God spoke through the prophet Joel to say, "Blow a trumpet in Zion and sound the alarm, for the day of the Lord is coming. Surely it is near." Well, brother, I believe it's near. Just recently, there was a story in a major London newspaper reporting that the Bishop of Rochester, which is one of the 10 most powerful positions in the Church of England, has stated that the collapse of Christianity had wrecked British society. Collapse? Well, maybe that's not the word I would have used. The American Heritage Dictionary defines collapse as falling down or inward suddenly, to break down suddenly in strength or in health. When it comes to the breakdown of Christianity in the UK, there hasn't been anything sudden about it, and it hasn't been unanticipated either, and it hasn't been unique to England, but more about that in just a moment. Having preached and taught the Word of God all around England many times, I know what the Bishop of Rochester sees when he looks. He sees cathedrals that have become nothing more than tourist attractions, a nation dotted with churches whose parking lots are empty, that's car parks in English. Their pews are unfilled and their collection plates are ringing empty. Sunday morning crowds are headed off to High Street to shop or to watch a football match, anywhere but to the church services. He and I both look and see the destruction of family life, more and more abuse of drugs and alcohol. He and I both see Islam rising and growing to fill the moral and spiritual ground that's been abdicated by the church. How far does it go? Well, Prince Charles has stated that if and when he's crowned as King of England, he would like to put aside the traditional title, Defender of the Faith, which, by the way, has been in use since 1521. He would rather be called Defender of Faiths, thus embracing more than one faith. Islam, of course, is other primary concern. But I have to tell you, Prince Charles, should you hear this, a man who has more than one faith actually has no faith. Jesus, who, by the way, Prince, is the King of Kings, said that no man can serve two masters. But still, I question the bishop's use of the word collapsing. I'd say that we need to check to see if Christianity is perishing, to see if it's dying. We need to check for signs of life. For the moment that you go in and you're in a hospital, and you're in a room and the patient expires. That heart monitor that a moment ago was going beep, 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 is now going bzzz, flatline. So into the room rush a doctor, a nurse, and a nurse's assistant. They look over at the patient lying there without pulse, without heartbeat, without breath. The nurse's assistant says, "But wait, he still has visitors coming in." The nurse picks up the patient's cell phone and looks at it and says, "But wait, he still has minutes on his phone." And the doctor exclaims, "But wait, he still has insurance left." Three of them in unison cry out, "It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!" I'll tell you what's really monstrous is when people can't tell the difference between what's alive and what's dead. And you know, the Bishop of Rochester, he sees that Christianity is collapsing in the UK. Well, he's partly right. The problem is he's partly wrong. The fact is what's perishing in the UK is religion, not Christianity, not the disciples of Jesus Christ. And the same problem exists here in the United States of America. And it's just as monstrous, quite frankly, because there are so many churches that don't know the difference between being alive and being dead. You know, Jesus spoke to the church of Sardis in the book of Revelation and said, "You have a name that you're alive, but you're dead." He said to the church at Laodicea, "You say that you're rich, you have need of nothing, but you're poor, you're wretched, you're naked." You've got to be able to tell the difference between what makes a church alive and dead. Here in the United States, there are churches that are growing. The buildings are getting bigger and bigger. I mean, they're spending millions upon millions of dollars. There's always a new building project going on. And they think that's life. There's more and more cars in the parking lots, and they've got to expand the parking lots, and they think that's life. There are more and more people filling the pews on Sunday, and they think that's life. That's not what makes a church alive. The only thing that makes a church alive is Jesus Christ, the presence of Jesus Christ, a thing that the church of Laodicea lacked. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me. He's the life. If Jesus isn't there, life isn't there. I don't care how many people are in the building. Now, you know, Paul wrote to the Corinthians and said that the word of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing. Now, here you have the real test of life in Christianity. Is the word of the cross foolishness, or is it, as Paul says, to us who are being saved, it's the power of God? You see, so many people today, just like 2,000 years ago, they didn't want to hear the message of Jesus Christ. Die to yourself, deny yourself, pick up your cross daily and follow me. They didn't want to hear that they're wretched sinners, saved only by the amazing grace of God the Father, who sent Jesus into the world to do for us what we couldn't do for ourselves. I'll tell you something. I've traveled in many, many places. I've lived in the third world. I've been to churches where they don't even have a building. I mean, where they have, 5 or 6 or 7 people gather around one Bible to hunger for the Word of God. That church is alive, because a church is any gathering of believers. They're more alive than a church that's filled with 20 or 30,000 people who are there to hear how good they are or how much better they can become. Because you want to know something? It's not a social gospel. It is a gospel of Jesus Christ. Paul said that the Jews seek for signs, the Greeks for wisdom, but we preach Christ crucified. To the Jews, a stumbling block, and to the Greeks, foolishness. I'll tell you what, it's never been a pleasant message, but it's the sign of life. When you hear about Christ and Him crucified. Christianity is not perishing. It's alive and well. It's alive and well in the UK. I go there and I meet with brothers and sisters, small congregations here and there, small congregations who truly have their eyes fixed on Jesus Christ, the author and finisher of their faith. They're alive. But they're not filling those old cathedrals. They're not filling those old churches where all of a sudden, I shouldn't say all of a sudden, where for years the word of the cross hasn't been preached. And it's the same thing in the United States. The buildings are full, but the spirits are empty. You got to ask yourself this question. When it comes to the word of the cross, when it comes to hearing about Jesus and Him crucified, is that something that you see as foolishness? Or is that what you see as the power of God? I pray that you're alive. I pray that you're alive. If you're in a congregation where you hear all kinds of wonderful self-help messages, but you're not hearing about Christ crucified, get out. It's perishing. If you're in a place where an old religion where it's just dead and no people are showing up because there's no life, I'll tell you what, get into the Word of God. Because Jesus Christ is the Word made flesh, and He is life.
I was tired of vainly looking. I had nights, they